You're listening to the Business Consulting Buzz podcast at www.consulting-business.com. Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky from Business Consulting Buzz, and today I'm excited to have Tamara Gielen on the show. Tamara Gielen has over 10 years of experience in online, email, and direct marketing. She is the author of B2BEmailMarketing.com, the founder of an international email marketing community, and a regular speaker on email marketing at international conferences. Prior to becoming an independent consultant, Tamara worked at eBay and Cognos, and then at Ogilvy One. Her clients include Microsoft, DHL Express, Booking.com, Wizards of the Coast, NATO, and Swift. Tamara, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, Tamara, you're an email marketing consultant. What is it that you actually do?
What is it that I do? Well, I basically work with big brands. Well, not only with big brands, but I basically work with brands, and they ask when they ask my advice on how to get started with email marketing, on how can they get more customers through using the email marketing channel. How can they get more people to respond to their emails? How can they get more people to sign up to their emails? How can they overall just have a good, meaningful relationship with their clients using email as one of the channels to communicate with them at different stages in the life cycle of a customer journey.
Okay, and so are you actually doing the implementation work for your clients, or is it mainly that you're providing advice and then they take that advice and they do the implementation, or how does it generally work?
It really depends. I have clients that basically ask for my advice and then they go ahead and do it themselves. I've got clients that really need me to, take them by the hand and guide them through everything while they do it themselves. Mm-hmm. And I have clients that say, okay, we need an email campaign. We need to do this, and this. Can you do this for us? So in my history of working as an email marketing for eBay, I used to do everything from segmentation to strategy work to writing the copy, writing the codes, doing the design work. So I've got a very broad experience, covering all aspects of email marketing.
Right. So, yeah. Oh. Okay, well let's go back for a minute. You were working with eBay, Cognos, Ogilvy One. Why did you decide to become a consultant rather than move up the ranks at big companies like that?
Well, I guess I got into consulting because at the time when I was working at eBay, the one thing that I liked doing most was actually talk to the other countries and help them figure out how to do stuff, because Belgium being a really small country within the eBay ecosystem, the things that I was doing with email marketing were pretty advanced for them, and everybody came and asked me questions on, how should we do this and what should you do there, and then, and I really loved just helping other people figuring out what they needed to do, and that's why I got into consulting. So when I was speaking at an event in the US at one point in time, somebody from Ogilvy came to me and they said, you know what? We'd like to hire you as a consultant in our Belgian office, and that's basically how I got into consulting. So I stayed with them for about a year, did some consulting work with a couple of really big clients, and then after a year I was like, you know what? The agency world is a very specific world, and coming from an environment as eBay's where everything is performance driven, I didn't really quite do very well within the agency world, at least not, so I basically decided that I'd be better off on my own.
So what you're saying that it was because at eBay you had the experience of everything being performance driven, but in the agency side it wasn't like that?
Well, I got the impression, and I guess as a consultant it is all about billing hours, but I like to focus on bringing. It's really weird to say it like this, but I'd like to focus on making sure that my clients get good results rather than continually think about, how can I bill more hours?
Right.
So,
okay,
yeah.
So what was that the big, or one of the challenges for you at working at an agency, is kind of the pressure from above to bill hours, or was there a focus on, we need to create a creative campaign that's going to win awards, or?
Yeah. All those things. I don't want to talk badly about agencies because, some of them are really, really good and they have their role to play and everything. It's just, it didn't feel right to me. And
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was kind of the impetus for you,
Yeah.
to leave and get into the world of consulting. So
Yeah.
once you made that transition or decided, okay, I'm gonna go out on my own and become a consultant, what did you do at the beginning to start getting clients?
Well, I'm probably in a very unique situation where I've been blogging about email marketing since 2005, since I was still working, before I started working at eBay.
Hmm.
Because of the blog and because of the fact that eBay is a cool name to have on a conference program, I started, getting invitations to speak about email marketing at eBay, at conferences
Hmm.
all over the world. And I became an independent consultant in end of 2008. So I had been building my network for 3 years, and most of my business, basically until today, comes in through the blog, through the speaking engagements. They come in because people refer me. It's through the network. I don't go out and hunt for clients. They just find me. And
Right.
probably if I would go out and hunt for more clients, I'd probably have a ton more work, but I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing and I'm making good money right now the way it is, and I'm actually having a social life as well, which is really good.
Right, yeah. So a question I have for you is why blog? So I know we're going back now, I think you said at 2005 or so, but why even start a blog? This was, as you said, before you started working at eBay. So why create a blog?
Why did I create a blog?
Yeah, I mean, what was it going on in your mind that made you want to start a blog and write on a regular basis?
Actually, that's a funny story because I didn't really start the blog because I wanted to start blogging. I started the blog because I was attending a course about an e-commerce course, and that was 2005, right? And they made us do a project in which we had to do something on the internet that made money. And
Okay.
and I figured, you know what? If I start a blog, I already have a ton of content on email marketing, so I can fill the blog with content, and then I'll just sell advertising, and maybe I'll upsell it later to like a membership model and God knows what. And that was the whole big idea behind it. And I totally failed for the program because I wasn't able to make money in those first 3-4 months.
Okay.
But that was 2005. In 2008, from the advertising that I was selling on my blog, I made like $25,000.
Right. But it sounds like your blog has actually made you quite a bit of money over the years with all the speaking engagements and clients.
Oh yeah, I mean indirectly for sure, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why email marketing? So you were actually you had created content and I guess were interested in email marketing even before you started your blog. So what was the background there? Why did you get involved in email marketing?
Oh, I was working at Cognos at the time, which was a business intelligence company. Well, they basically sold reporting and analysis software.
Okay.
And Belgium, being a small country, having little budget, and again, we speak two languages. We have the Flemish side and the French side, and everything in marketing cost money, right? And we didn't have a big budget. So they decided in 2001 that we're not going to be sending out direct mailers anymore to people to invite them to our webinars, to our live sessions, our live demo
Hmm.
sessions. Let's start using email. And I was the marketing assistant at that time. And so I started using email, and we started sending out emails through Outlook with 500 names in BCC at,
Right. Yeah.
the good old-fashioned way. And we managed to get blocked at some of our biggest clients within the first couple of months. Right, they already had their mail service set so that you couldn't deliver messages that had so many names in BCC and blah blah blah. So that was for me the point where I was like, okay, so we're doing something, we know that it works, but how can we do this better? And there were a couple of books written on email marketing, but there was no courses that you could attend, and there was not much out there yet in that day and age.
Hmm.
So I started reading anything I could get my hands on, and I just started saving all those good materials that I found in my inbox because I was subscribed to a ton of newsletters around email marketing, and that is basically how I got interested in the medium. You can measure everything from who opens, when do they open, what do they click on, where do they go after the click, how much money is the email making. It's just it's such a powerful medium, and I was drawn to it like, I don't know, how do you
Yeah,
say that, like
definitely.
flies to sugar.
You told me that one of your biggest challenges early on was figuring out how to price your services.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Pricing has always been a difficult one. In the beginning, well, I had a reference point from, what Ogilvy was charging for my time. And I figured, okay, so if the agent,
Do you remember what that was roughly?
I think it was 150 euros per hour.
Okay.
Yeah. And I figured, you know what, I'm on my own, so I don't have the overhead that an agency has.
Mhm.
So I'll probably lower my prices. So I went with 100 an hour.
Okay.
And, I started using a certain rate, and then, up till today, I sometimes, I charge more, sometimes I charge less. It really depends on, what the feeling is of what the client's budget would be. If it's a smaller client, if I know that they don't have a lot of budget, I may, lower my prices.
Mhm.
Yeah, it really depends on the type of client. And
Okay, so
it also depends on whether it's a short-term project or it's something that's going to run over the longer term.
right. So your approach to fees has really been just kind of you've learned over time what feels right, and there's no specific method or anything that you've learned around kind of setting your fees that works for you. It's just kind of been trial and error.
It has been trial and error, and I also know that, I mean, there's some psychology to it where, the higher the price, the more value the service is. So you're
Hmm.
trying not to put a price point that's too low, of course, but it really depends on gut feeling most of the times. And
You
you
work from
learn
yeah.
by trial and error. You see that when you charge a certain price, people respond or they don't respond.
Right. You work from home, actually in the countryside of Belgium, and maybe the last place where people would imagine that you'd be running a successful, email marketing and consulting business,
Yeah.
and also working with brands like DHL, Booking.com, and others. But you told me that this can also get lonely. What's that been like for you?
Well, I've been doing this for 4 years now, and being by myself in an office where there's nobody else around, and nobody else lives in my house, so I'm just living here by myself. Sometimes I have weeks where I don't see anybody, so I keep in touch with people. I'm on Facebook all the time. That's my
Right. Okay.
connection to the outside world. And about a year and a half ago, I get in 2011, I started working with someone who actually does exactly the same thing as I do, but she lives in the UK. So we work together,
Hmm.
and she has her clients and her projects in the UK, and I have my clients and projects here in Belgium and in the US and anywhere else where people want us. But we talk regularly. We have shared files. So when she does training courses, she shares the files with me so I can have a look at what she does, and vice versa, right? So I have someone to basically bounce ideas off.
Right.
And that really helps. You need to have a person that you can, whether it's your partner or a friend or somebody, that you can trust. In this case, we were friends. We met at a conference in the US, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And since we were both doing the same thing and we weren't really, competing with each other, at all, but, she was in her geographical area and I was in mine, and it just made sense we both needed somebody to, bounce ideas off and to feel like we were not alone.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important point because that's something that a lot of consultants, are faced with at one time or another, because a lot of us do work independently, and so it sounds like for you, finding someone else that you could almost partner with or check in with on a regular basis, or bounce ideas around with, whether it's a mentor in this case, a colleague, has been the way that's worked for you.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine you having a mentor as well, so somebody that you can just, that's not in your business, but someone that can help you. I mean, you need to have someone like that.
Right. Let's talk about email marketing for a minute before we get to today's action bite. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making in email marketing?
Oh, how much time do we have?
Yeah.
Sending everything
Just
to everybody. This
okay.
mistake number one. But
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
what I mean is, not all your customers have the same needs, or they're not all interested in the same thing, right? If I look, I have B2C customers and I have B2B customers. If you take a B2C example where I'm a mother I'm not, but let's pretend I'm a mother, right? And I have small children that still need diapers, then an email that promotes diapers makes total sense to me. If I'm old and I have a problem and I need diapers, then sending me an email about diapers will make sense to me. But if I'm in the middle and I'm not, I don't
Right.
have kids and I don't have any physical problems, then don't send that commercial on diapers to me,
Right.
right? So,
Or it could be two different kinds of diapers for
yeah,
the babies
of
and
course.
for the older people, right?
Most likely. Bad example. I knew it. But yeah, it's don't send everything to everybody. Make sure that the emails, people just want to put in so much content in the emails, and then at the last moment they forget that they also need to link back to a website so people can actually take action. You
Right.
cannot believe the amount of emails that I'm receiving where the call to action is not clear. People need to
Mm.
be able to see where they can click. People need to be told where to click and where to go and what the next action is. Um, what else? Um,
What about frequency? I mean, how often should people be sending emails?
that's also an it depends answer. Um, let's say it depends on the content. If you have good, relevant, valuable content, then you can mail me every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm subscribed to, on Twitter the other day, I wrote that my favorite newsletter, my favorite daily newsletter today is the
Mm-hmm.
YouTube daily newsletter, because I'm very much into music, and because I've liked so many videos on YouTube, the emails that are coming to me on a daily basis are very relevant, and they all contain music that I either don't know or that I like really well, and the ones that I don't know are actually really good as well. So it's kind of like Amazon for music, where
Right. So it's
Amazon,
very, very personalized.
yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they can send me emails every day, and I open them every day. I remember getting 10 emails a day from eBay, and they were all relevant to me because they were all about promoting a search that I had, a favorite search that I had on eBay for a certain item that I was looking for. And when new items came, were posted on the site, I would get an email saying like, hey, there are new red shoes, the ones that you're looking for, blah, 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 go here.
Yeah.
Those were really relevant emails, and the amount of emails that I received was not an issue. But when you send me every day an email promoting something that I don't care about, if you talk about sell, sell, sell all the time, you don't give me anything of value, and you don't really respect what my interests are, then sending a daily email is going to get you probably in trouble by people unsubscribing or not clicking or reporting your emails as spam.
Right. Okay. Any other big one that stands out, something that you've seen with a lot of clients, mistakes that they're making that you're able to, to help to fix, or it's kind of a best practice, but people seem to ignore maybe?
Oh, there are so many of those, but I think if there's one thing that I would like to add is people very often think of email marketing as let's get this weekly newsletter out,
Right.
whereas they should be looking at email as a channel that they can use to send one-to-one messages. And I mean with that, when
Mm.
somebody comes to your website and they go away without doing something and you recognize that they've been on your website, then you can follow up with a certain message, right? I mean, if they've already subscribed to your newsletter, for example, and there's a cookie on their machine and they come back and they click on a certain product and those are all things that you can capture, and you can trigger emails off of that. If somebody comes and downloads a white paper, there's so many things that you can detect that people are interested in certain things. There's a
Mm-hmm.
term for that. They call it digital body language. So if you figure out that somebody's been to my website over the last week and they've been to 5 product pages and they've been looking at this and they've been looking at that, and you can basically score them based on what they're doing, and then trigger off messages that can help them go further in the buying cycle. For
Right.
example, I mean, it's just all about trying to trigger and automate messages at the right point in time with the right kind of message that's based on something that somebody does or doesn't do.
Okay, those are some great tips. Let's get into today's action bite.
Yep.
And for today, you're going to talk about how consultants can stay in contact with their clients in a more automated way. So tell us more about this and also how consultants can benefit from it.
Okay. Well, for me, I've been blogging for God knows how many years now. the way that I've been using my blog is my content repository. Or basically, to be honest, is actually my content repository is basically Diigo, which is a service like Delicious, Diigo. And
Okay.
whenever I read something that I find really interesting, I do one of two things. Either I bookmark it on Diigo, and then I tell it to also post it to my blog. And then every day there's a blog post that appears on my blog with, the best articles that I read, and it's a selection of things that people need to read. So with the blog that I have, I hardly ever write messages myself or blog posts. I basically repost stuff that other people write. And with that, it may sound weird, but it's been very successful for me because every day there's like tons and tons of material on email marketing that's being posted on the web, and I provide like a curation service. So the best articles that people should read, I will put them on my blog, right? So that's what Diigo then does. It puts the bookmarks that I've put on Diigo, it puts it on my blog in a daily blog post. And then on the other side, I use a service called Buffer, right? And what Buffer does is, I have scheduled, you can schedule tweets, basically. So what Buffer does for me is, I have scheduled tweets from Monday to Friday between the hours of, I think it's 10 in the morning and 9 or 10 in the evening. Every hour, it will basically, post one of the bookmarks that I've bookmarked on Diigo.
Oh, so you're not actually going in yourself and scheduling all these tweets to go out?
No, Diigo does that for me. I've set it up so that when I add a certain tag to a link, then it will add it to Buffer. And then I'm using another, I'm very technology advanced here.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, I'm using a bunch of services. So I'm using Diigo, and Diigo then triggers, there's a website called ifttt.com, if this then that, basically. And then if I post a new bookmark on Diigo, and it's tagged with X, then send it to Buffer, or then send it to here, or then send it to there. So it's like, yeah, I've got everything automated. So, but basically, people have come to know me as the expert in email marketing, and I share with people only the things that I find really interesting, right? So I don't get people to pay me to post stuff. I only post what I really find valuable for my audience. And I try to post it on Twitter, on my blog, and then the RSS feed of the blog that will be pulled into, I use a tool called MailChimp, right? And MailChimp allows me to send RSS-based emails. So what that means is I've set up a campaign and I've told it, you know what? Every week, if there have been blog posts in the last 7 days, pull in those recent blog posts and send out an email automatically.
Right. Okay.
And that all gets triggered by I used to use Google Reader, right? To read RSS.
That's disappearing soon.
So I'm looking for alternatives. But yeah, I just read a lot, and why not, if you're doing that, if you're an expert in your field, or if you are in a certain profession, then you have a lot of knowledge, but you also need to keep up with what's going on in the marketplace. And whatever you find interesting, there sure is going to be an audience out there that's going to find that interesting as well. So why not share it? And I've got a bookmark lid in my browser, so I basically just push a button and tell it, this article, I like it, put it on Diigo. And then from there on, if I've got it all set up and it works.
And what have you found with regard? I mean, that sounds amazing. It's very interesting. I like the way that you've automated and created a system, which, I mean, I can imagine how much time that would save people.
You know what I always say?
Yeah.
I'm a very lazy person, so I don't want to do anything that's not efficient enough.
But what have you found with regards to your blog and engagement? I mean, people might be wondering about that, because I know I'm wondering, as I'm hearing you talk about this, that if someone comes to your site and then all you're doing is, pointing them to external sites, are people still engaging on your site? Are you seeing them coming back? And are they, is their time on site decreasing because you're pointing them to other sites? And then also, are they returning to the site, on a regular basis to see new content, or how have you found that?
Well, I've got my following on Twitter that reads my posts as well, right? I've got the people that are signed up. I signed up to the newsletter, so those ones are definitely coming back. To be honest, I don't really look at time on site and all those things, because for me, this is about me positioning myself as an expert, and my website, my blog does have a little blurb about me, about, what I do, and there's a link to my consulting services and my training courses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're wondering whether there's a strategy behind the approach that I'm taking, not really.
It's worked for you though.
It's worked, yeah. And then whatever works, I just don't question it, and I just keep on doing what I do.
Right.
But I get invited to speak at conferences because people end up on my blog, and for me it is more, you know, by giving away knowledge, people will understand that you know what you're talking about, and if they need your services, they will come to you. And I'm sure that 80% of the people that come to my blog, they just take the content and they go and do it themselves. And they're probably not the clients that that would work with me anyway. But the other ones that, are in larger companies, and they just need to find someone that knows what they're talking about and that can help them, rather than them trying to figure it out by themselves, because that is saving them time.
Tamara, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you for sharing with our community.
Thank you. It was lovely.
For more interviews, articles, and resources on consulting, visit Business Consulting Buzz at www.consulting-business.com.